The screen opens on grainy security camera footage from December 15, 2023. Timestamp visible in the corner, 7:47 to 23 p.m. The image quality is poor, typical of office building surveillance, but we can make out a crowded conference room. A woman in a simple black dress stands at a cheap podium. Even in the pixelated footage, her posture speaks volumes. Shoulders back, chin up, a lifetime of professional dignity compressed into her stance. They say you can't put a price on loyalty, but apparently, my company could. 30 years of service, 2 daughters put through college on my salary alone, 3 recessions survived, 2 company bankruptcies prevented, 1 CEO's empire built on my expertise, and in the end, they valued all of that at exactly $10. My name is Janet Morrison. I'm 54 years old, and 3 days ago, I stood in Conference Room B of Sterling Industries, holding a $10 Starbucks gift card that was supposed to represent 3 decades of my life. What happened next has been called the most devastating corporate takedown in modern history. But to understand how I went from humiliated employee to majority shareholder, you need to know the whole story. To understand December 15, 2023, you have to understand June 3, 1993. That was my first day at Sterling Industries, though it wasn't supposed to be. I was 24 years old, sitting in the parking lot of Sterling Industries in a 1987 Honda Civic that I'd bought for $500 and prayed would last until my first paycheck. My 2 daughters, Sarah, age 2, and Emily, just 8 months, were at my neighbor Mrs. Chen's apartment. The interview was for a secretary position in the accounting department. $18,000 a year, which seemed like a fortune to someone living on food stamps and WBUIC vouchers. My husband, ex-husband by then, though the divorce wasn't final, had left 6 months earlier. But here's something about desperation. It gives you clarity. When you have 2 babies and $47 to your name, you don't have the luxury of nervousness. You have necessity. William Sterling's office was exactly what you'd expect. Massive windows overlooking the city, leather furniture that smelled like money, a desk that was bigger than my entire apartment. But the man himself wasn't what I expected. Ms. Morrison, I'm going to be direct. You're overqualified to be a secretary. I'd like to offer you a position in our accounting department, junior accountant, starting at $22,000. I know what it's like to need a chance. My father was a janitor. I started Sterling Industries with a loan I couldn't afford and a determination to prove everyone wrong. Sometimes all we need is someone to see our potential. My first day in accounting was a disaster, not because I couldn't do the work, because I could do it too well. By lunch, I'd entered a month's worth of invoices. Harold came to check on me, saw the completed stack, and frowned. Janet, you don't have to rush. We don't expect that much on your first day. I'm not rushing. The pattern is predictable once you understand it. Also, there are 17 errors in the previous entries. Should I fix those? Over the next 5 years, I transformed that department, not through any brilliant innovation, simply by applying my ability to see patterns and remember everything. By 1998, I was managing the entire department. Harold had retired, recommending me as his replacement. The promotion came with a raise to $45,000, enough to move my daughters to a better school district. The early 2000s brought new challenges. The dot-com bubble burst. Clients defaulted, revenue streams dried up, Sterling Industries was bleeding money, and board members were whispering about bankruptcy. I worked 18-hour days, analyzing our finances, finding waste, identifying opportunities. I discovered we were paying for services we didn't use, leasing equipment we didn't need, maintaining contracts that had auto-renewed for decades without review. One night, William Sterling found me in the office at 2 a.m., surrounded by printouts and empty coffee cups. "Go home, Janet," he said gently. "I can't. If I can find another $200,000 in savings, we can make payroll without taking out a loan. You know what I pay McKinsey for this kind of analysis. Try 10 times your annual salary, and they wouldn't find half of what you've found. What do you think you're worth? I've saved this company $3.2 million in the last 18 months. I've prevented bankruptcy twice. I've built financial systems that will serve Sterling Industries for decades. I think that's worth more than $45,000 a year. Janet, you're the most valuable employee I have. I should have done this years ago, but you never asked. And that gratitude has cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't be grateful. Be aware of your value. By 2008, I was Senior Director of Financial Operations, making $120,000 a year. I'd built Sterling Industries' entire modern financial infrastructure. Every system, every process, every safeguard bore my fingerprints. I thought I was indispensable. I thought my value was obvious. I thought I was safe. I was wrong on all counts. William Sterling died on March 15, 2010, at 3:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was in a budget meeting when Margaret Chen from HR knocked on the door, tears streaming down her face. The funeral was held on a rainy Tuesday. The cathedral was packed. Employees, clients, competitors, city officials. William had touched thousands of lives, and it showed. Richard Sterling gave the eulogy. Even through my grief, something felt off. He spoke for 30 minutes, but said nothing about his father's character, his values, his relationships. Instead, he talked about growth opportunities, market expansion, taking Sterling Industries to the next level. My father built something great, but greatness isn't enough anymore. It's time for Sterling Industries to become extraordinary. The will reading was the following Friday. Patricia had asked me to attend, which surprised me. I wasn't family, wasn't an executive at Williams' level, but I went. To Janet Morrison, who has been more valuable to Sterling Industries than she knows, I leave $50,000 and a letter to be opened privately. Richard's face darkened. I saw him do the math. His father had left me, a mere employee, more than he'd left some family members. Dear Janet, if you're reading this, then my fears about my health were justified. I need you to know 3 things. First, you have been the daughter I wished I'd had. Your intelligence, integrity, and dedication have meant more to me than I've expressed. Second, Sterling Industries exists today because of your work. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. You've saved my company multiple times, and I've underpaid you for the privilege. The $50,000 is a small attempt to correct that injustice. Third, and most importantly, I'm worried about Richard. He's my son, and I love him. But he doesn't share our values. He sees employees as expenses, not assets. If he threatens what we've built, remember, you know where all the bodies are buried. Richard became CEO the next week. His first all-hands meeting was a study in contrasts with his father's style. Where William had been warm and personal, Richard was cold and corporate. Sterling Industries is entering a new era. We're going to modernize, streamline, optimize. Some of you will rise to meet these challenges. Others, the future belongs to those who can adapt. After the meeting, Margaret found me in my office. We'd become friends over the years, bonding over single motherhood and workplace challenges. She closed the door behind her. That was ominous. He's going to clean house. Anyone his father valued is a target, especially me. I know too much about how things actually work. That threatens people like him. So, what do? We document everything. We watch, we wait, and we protect each other. It was the beginning of an alliance that would eventually bring down Richard Sterling. Richard's transformation of Sterling Industries began slowly, like a disease with a long incubation period. The first symptoms were subtle. Meetings I wasn't invited to, reports that went unread, suggestions that were ignored. 3 months into his tenure, he called me into his office. I'd been there countless times during William's leadership, but Richard had redecorated. Gone were the comfortable chairs and family photos. In their place, modern art that looked like money laundering and furniture designed to intimidate. Janet, I've been reviewing our organizational structure. You've been here a long time, since before I was born, actually. That's a lot of institutional knowledge. But I'm concerned we're too dependent on individuals. What happens if you get hit by a bus? I think we need fresh perspectives in leadership. I'm bringing in Brad Kowalski as CFO. You're demoting me, restructuring. Your title remains the same. Your salary remains the same. You'll report to Brad, help him understand our systems. I built those systems. Brad Kowalski arrived the next Monday, 28 years old, tall and handsome, in that generic way of men who've never faced real hardship. His handshake was aggressively firm, his smile condescending. Janet, I've heard you're the institutional memory around here. I prefer to think of myself as the institutional architect. Well, I'm excited to learn from you before we modernize everything. Richard wants to outsource most accounting functions to India. Much more cost-effective. We'll keep a skeleton crew here for oversight. But those employees have families, mortgages, lives built on their jobs here. I'm sure they'll land on their feet. Disruption creates opportunity, right? 3 months to dismantle everything I'd built. 3 months to watch my team realize they were expendable. 3 months to train my replacement in systems he'd destroy. But I did it. What choice did I have? I was 41 years old, a single mother with one daughter at MIT and another starting art school. My salary paid for their dreams. My health insurance covered their needs. My stability ensured their futures. So I smiled. I trained. I documented. And I started keeping my own records. The layoffs came in waves. First, the redundancies, people whose jobs could be combined if everyone worked harder. Margaret, in HR, was overwhelmed. I've processed more terminations in 6 months than in the previous decade. And the lawsuits, Janet, we're settling discrimination claims weekly. How are we paying for all these settlements? That's the thing. The money comes from accounts I don't recognize, shell companies with generic names. Brad handles it directly. He's embezzling. The patterns are clear if you know how to look. So what do? Report it. To whom? Richard controls the board. Brad controls the finances. HR reports to executives who serve at Richard's pleasure. Then we do nothing. We document everything, every transaction, every settlement, every crime. We build a case so airtight that when the opportunity comes, we'll be ready. By 2013, I had 2 full-time jobs. Officially, I was Senior Director of Financial Operations, training Brad's team to destroy my life's work. Unofficially, I was building the most comprehensive record of corporate malfeasance ever assembled by a single employee. Every night after official work, I'd spend hours analyzing transactions. My hyperthymesia was both blessing and curse. I couldn't forget the numbers, even if I wanted to. They arranged themselves in my mind, patterns emerging like constellations. The embezzlement was elegant in its simplicity. Richard and Brad had created a network of shell companies, each billing Sterling Industries for vague services, always just under the amounts requiring board approval, always paid to companies registered in Delaware or Nevada. $50,000 here, $75,000 there. Individually defensible, collectively damning. I tracked it all in encrypted files on a personal laptop I'd bought with cash. Paranoid? Maybe, but I'd started noticing things. My work computer's browser history, showing sites I'd never visited. Files moved on my desktop when I knew I'd left them elsewhere. Someone was watching me. Margaret noticed too. It accessed my computer remotely yesterday. Said they were doing maintenance, but they were in my personal folders. Start keeping everything important off-site. Physical copies in a safety deposit box. Digital copies on encrypted drives. This is insane, Janet. We work for a corporation, not the mob. What's the difference anymore? The personal cost was mounting. I barely saw my daughters, spending every weekend documenting crimes instead of visiting them at school. Sarah noticed during one of our rare dinners together. She was home from MIT for Thanksgiving, brilliant and beautiful at 22, the age I'd been when I'd had her. Mom, you look exhausted. Work is challenging right now. It's more than that. You're scared. My company is being destroyed from within, and I'm documenting it all while pretending everything's fine. Why not just leave? Because I'm 44 years old, with specialized knowledge of one company. Because I need 5 more years to fully vest in my retirement plan. Because who else will hire me at anything close to my current salary? So you're trapped. I'm strategic. There's a difference. Mom, you've spent your whole life being strategic. Maybe it's time to be brave instead. Brave doesn't pay for your sister's art school. We'll figure it out. We always have. But I couldn't risk their futures on my courage. So I continued the charade. The shell companies multiplied. Phoenix Partners, Lighthouse Consulting, Apex Advisory, Sterling Solutions. Each invoice a theft. Each payment a betrayal of William's legacy. By 2015, they were stealing $200,000 monthly. By 2018, it was $500,000. The company was being hollowed out from within, and I was the only one who could see the full scope. No, that's not true. One other person saw it. David Ross entered my life on September 15, 2019, at 2:17 p.m. I remember because I was calculating how many years until I could retire when Margaret knocked on my office door. "There's someone here to see you," says William Sterling sent him. My blood chilled. William had been dead for 9 years. David Ross looked like success, early 40s, perfectly tailored suit, the kind of quiet confidence that comes from genuine achievement rather than inheritance. He sat across from my desk and pulled out an envelope. "Ms. Morrison, I apologize for the cryptic introduction. William Sterling was my mentor 20 years ago. He helped me start my first company, taught me everything about business that matters. Before he died, he gave me this letter with specific instructions. David, if you're reading this, then Richard has become the threat I feared. By now, Janet Morrison will have evidence of his crimes. Help her. She has the proof. You have the resources. Together, you can save my company. How do you know about evidence? I don't. But William said you would by the time I needed to contact you. He gave me a 10-year timeline. It's been 9.5. William built safeguards into the company structure. If the CEO engages in criminal activity that threatens the company's stability, the board can force a sale of their shares. It requires proof of malfeasance and a qualified buyer ready to step in. And you're that buyer? I run a venture capital firm focused on transforming mismanaged companies. We have $2 billion under management. Sterling Industries would fit our portfolio perfectly. Why should I trust you? Because William Sterling saved my life once. And I've been waiting 9 years to repay that debt. And because you're running out of options. What do you need from me? Everything. Every document. Every pattern. Every crime. We'll build a case that the board can't ignore. The board is in Richard's pocket. Not all of them. Marcus Thompson, William's oldest friend, has been waiting for someone to give him ammunition. I made a decision that would change everything. I'll need a week to organize everything, and we'll need to be careful. Richard has been monitoring employees he considers threats, especially me. This isn't just about saving a company or getting justice. William told me something before he died. He said you were the most valuable employee he'd ever had, and he'd failed to protect you from what was coming. He made me promise to help when the time came. His exact words were, "I've underpaid and undervalued her for 17 years. Don't let my son destroy her, along with everything else. 1 week, then we take them down." The next week was the most intense of my life. Every night, I compiled evidence. 20 years of financial records, cross-referenced and analyzed. Patterns of embezzlement highlighted. Shell companies traced. A forensic accounting case that would make prosecutors weep with joy. But I needed more than numbers. I needed Margaret's documentation of the human cost. We met at a diner 20 miles from the office, paranoid about surveillance. 67 age discrimination settlements, 43 sexual harassment complaints. all against Richard, or his direct reports. 18 disability discrimination cases, all settled quietly, all funded from the same shadow accounts you've been tracking. Total cost? $12 million in settlements, another $8 million in legal fees, all hidden from the board. Because settling is cheaper than letting it go public. And because Richard doesn't see people as people, just problems to be managed. There's something else. I've been getting calls from former employees. They want to help. They want justice. How many? Dozens. Maybe more. Janet, we could have an army if we need one. Sarah came home that weekend, ostensibly to visit, but really to help. My brilliant daughter had become a cybersecurity expert, and she had ideas. Mom, their digital security is pathetic. I could access their systems remotely if needed. Absolutely not. That's illegal. So is embezzlement. So is discrimination. So is destroying people's lives for profit. I'm not suggesting we do anything illegal, just be prepared in case we need digital evidence they try to destroy. Hypothetically, what would you need? I already have it. I've been monitoring Sterling's systems for 3 years. What? How? Remember when I did that summer internship in IT? I left myself a few back doors, just in case. Sarah Elizabeth Morrison. That's protecting my mother, who's been killing herself, documenting crimes, while the criminals get rich. I won't apologize for that. We protect each other. That's what family does. David and I met again the following week, this time at his office. The space was everything Sterling Industries wasn't. Open, bright, collaborative. People actually smiled in the hallways. I've reviewed everything. This is devastating. How did they think they'd get away with it? Arrogance. Richard genuinely believes he's untouchable. His father's name, his connections, his wealth. He thinks they're armor. They're not. Not against this. Here's the plan. We present to the board's audit committee first. Marcus Thompson chairs it. He's already predisposed to believe Richard is destroying his best friend's company. With your evidence, he'll have no choice but to act. Then what? Then we make an offer. My firm will purchase controlling interest, contingent on Richard's removal and full restitution of stolen funds. We'll restore the company to its values, rehire wrongfully terminated employees, and rebuild what Richard destroyed. And if the board refuses, then we go to the FBI. White-collar crime division would love a case this gift-wrapped. But that's messier, takes longer, and might destroy the company in the process. When? December. Richard always takes vacation the first 2 weeks. We'll strike when he's gone, present to the board, and have everything in place before he returns. That's 3 months away. 3 months to make our case airtight? 3 months to line up financing. 3 months for you to decide something important. What's that? What you want when this is over. You could run the company, you know. You've got the knowledge, the respect, the vision. The board would approve you as CEO in a heartbeat. I'm 50 years old, David. I've spent my career in the shadows. I'm not CEO material. William thought you were. I think you are. Maybe it's time you thought it too. In October, I made a decision that would either be strategic brilliance or career suicide. I announced my retirement. I knocked on Richard's door, wearing my most defeated expression. He was on a call, feet up on his desk, laughing about something. He waved me in without pausing his conversation. Told him if he didn't like the offer, he could find another buyer. In this market, good luck with that. Right. Hey, I've got someone in my office. Call you back. He hung up and looked at me with mild annoyance. Janet, what's up? I wanted to inform you that I'll be retiring at the end of the year. Retiring? You're what, 50? 51. I've been here 27 years. I'm tired, Richard. The company has changed, and I don't think I fit the new culture. Well, this is unexpected, but probably for the best. We've been looking at restructuring your department anyway. I assumed as much. I'll work with Brad to ensure a smooth transition. Good. We'll throw you a party. Something nice. You've been here forever, after all. That's not necessary. Nonsense. Sterling Industries values its long-term employees. Madison can arrange something. Second week of December. That would be fine. I left his office fighting the urge to smile. He'd just scheduled his own execution. The announcement spread quickly. Employees stopped by my office, some crying, others angry. "You can't leave. You're the only executive who remembers our names. This place won't be the same without you. You hired me 15 years ago, gave me a chance when no one else would." Each conversation broke my heart a little more. These people didn't know I was fighting for them. They thought I was abandoning them. Margaret understood the strategy immediately. "You're giving him rope to hang himself. He'll let his guard down. A retiring employee isn't a threat. He might even get sloppy in the final months." Brilliant. Evil, but brilliant. I learned from watching him. The retirement announcement had another effect I hadn't anticipated. People started telling me things, secrets they'd kept, crimes they'd witnessed, evidence they'd hidden. It was like they wanted me to carry their stories into retirement, to remember what Sterling Industries had become. Brad was particularly revealing. He saw me as neutered now, no longer a threat, and his tongue loosened. "Between you and me, your documentation is impressive. Almost too impressive. We'll probably just scan the essential stuff and dump the rest. No point keeping 30 years of history when we're modernizing everything. Of course, no point living in the past." Exactly. "Richard says you've been the biggest obstacle to progress. No offense, none taken. Change is hard for older employees. That's why we're focusing on hiring young talent. Cheaper, more flexible, no baggage. The future of business, really." I smiled and nodded, and mentally added age discrimination to his growing list of crimes. November crawled by. I trained replacements who didn't care about the systems they were inheriting. I watched Richard and Brad grow increasingly bold in their theft. I counted days until December 15th. The party planning was its own form of torture. Madison, Richard's 23-year-old assistant, tried her best with the $500 budget he'd given her. "I'm so sorry. I told him this wasn't enough for someone with your tenure, but he said it was already generous." "It's fine, Madison. I don't need a big party." "It's not fine. My mom worked for a company for 25 years. When she retired, they rented a yacht. You've been here longer, and you're getting grocery store cake in the break room. Conference room B, actually. Even worse. That room smells like mildew." She was right. But conference room B would be perfect for what I had planned. December arrived with unusual cold, ice coating the windows of Sterling Industries, like a preview of what was coming. I had 2 weeks until the party, and everything had to be perfect. David's team had been working around the clock. The financing was in place, $47 million ready to purchase controlling interest. The legal framework was solid. The board presentation was devastating in its thoroughness. But I had one more card to play. I called Elizabeth Sterling, Richard's second ex-wife. We'd never met, but I knew she'd been on the board until the divorce forced her out. "Mrs. Sterling, this is Janet Morrison from Sterling Industries." A pause. "I know who you are. Richard complained about you constantly during our marriage. Said you were the only employee who wasn't afraid of him. I need to meet with you. It's about Richard. I can't discuss anything related to Sterling Industries. The NDA won't apply after December 15th. Another pause. Longer. "I'm listening." We met at her attorney's office. Elizabeth Sterling was everything I wasn't. Tall, elegant, born to wealth. But her eyes held the same exhaustion I saw in my mirror every morning. He destroyed me, not just financially, though that was bad enough. He destroyed my reputation, my confidence, my faith in people, all because I questioned where money was going. "You knew about the embezzlement," I suspected, tried to bring it to the board. Richard convinced them I was a bitter wife, trying to cause trouble. They removed me, and he buried me in legal threats. "What if I told you we could destroy him? Legally, publicly, completely?" I'd say, "What do you need from me?" I explained the plan, the evidence, the board coup, the FBI backup plan. Her role would be simple: attend the retirement party as a guest of Margaret's. Her presence alone would rattle Richard. Her testimony, if needed, would bury him. "He'll know why I'm there. Good, let him sweat." She smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her. Ms. Morrison, I underestimated you. Richard always said you were just a glorified bookkeeper who got lucky. What else did he say? That you reminded him of his father. That was not a compliment from him. It is to me. The pieces were falling into place, but I couldn't shake a growing anxiety. Too many variables, too many ways for things to go wrong. I was playing chess while Richard played checkers, but even checkers players get lucky sometimes. Sarah sensed my nerves during our weekly call. Mom, you sound stressed. Big retirement party coming up. Lots of moving pieces. Need me there? I can fly in from San Francisco. No, sweetheart. Stay there. I'll tell you all about it afterward. Mom, be careful. Whatever you're really doing, just be careful. I'm always careful. No, you're always strategic. There's a difference. She was right, of course. For 27 years, I'd been strategic, careful, safe. But in 5 days, I was going to be something else entirely. I was going to be dangerous. December 15th, 2023, dawned gray and bitter, the kind of cold that seeps through windows and chills souls. I woke at 4 a.m., unable to sleep, running through every possible scenario. What if Richard didn't show up? What if the board rejected our proposal? What if the FBI thought our evidence was insufficient? What if? I dressed carefully, black dress, professional but forgettable, minimal jewelry, low heels I could move quickly in if needed. I looked in the mirror and saw a 54-year-old woman who'd spent 3 decades being underestimated. Perfect. The day crawled by. I went through the motions of my job, smiling at colleagues who wished me well, accepting small gifts from team members who'd pooled their money despite the company providing nothing. We wanted you to know you mattered to us, even if they don't see it. I almost broke down. These people, who Richard saw as expendable resources, had more grace and generosity than he could imagine. At 5 p.m., Madison found me in my office. Everything's ready in conference room B. I'm so sorry it's not nicer. You deserve better. It's perfect, Madison. Really. Can I tell you something? Of course. I've been looking for another job. This place, it's toxic. Mr. Sterling, the things he says and does, I can't take it anymore. Good for you. You deserve better, too. I just wanted you to know that after tonight, I'm giving notice. Your retirement gave me courage. If someone like you can leave, so can I. I hugged her impulsively. You're going to do amazing things, Madison. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. She left, and I spent the next hour alone, watching the clock. David's team was in position. The board members were on standby. Margaret had confirmed Elizabeth was in the building. Everything was ready. At 6:45, I walked to conference room B. The hallway seemed longer than usual, my heels echoing like a countdown. I paused at the door, took a deep breath, and entered my own funeral. The room was exactly as depressing as expected. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. A plastic tablecloth covered a folding table, laden with grocery store cookies and warm soda. A sheet cake proclaimed, "Happy Retirement, Jane," in blue frosting. About 40 people milled around, looking as uncomfortable as the furniture. Richard held court near the podium, Brad at his side, both checking their phones constantly. Margaret caught my eye and nodded slightly. Elizabeth Sterling sat in the back corner, perfectly positioned to be in Richard's line of sight when he spoke. I made small talk, accepted congratulations, pretended this was normal. Inside, my heart hammered against my ribs. 27 years had led to this moment. At 7:30, Richard finally decided to acknowledge why we were there. He tapped the microphone, feedback squealing through the room. All right, let's get this started. I've got dinner reservations at 8. Richard's speech was a masterclass in indifference. He stood at the podium, expensive suit, impeccable, Rolex catching the fluorescent lights, and delivered words that meant nothing. We're here tonight to celebrate Jane Morrison's retirement after many years of service. Jane has been an adequate employee who has done accounting things. Jane, after 27 years, he still didn't know my name. Sterling Industries thanks her for her service and wishes her well in retirement. In recognition of her many years here, we'd like to present her with a small token of our appreciation." He reached into his jacket pocket and frowned. Nothing there. He checked his other pocket. Empty. Madison hurried forward, whispered in his ear, and handed him a Sterling Industries envelope. He didn't even have the gift ready. He'd forgotten entirely. "Ah, yes, here we go." He pulled out the gift card, glanced at it, and handed it to me without ceremony. "A little something for your coffee runs in retirement." I took the envelope slowly, opened it theatrically. Inside was a $10 Starbucks gift card. Not even activated, I'd bet. The room went silent. Someone actually gasped. I saw Linda from Accounts Payable start crying. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. The insult that would justify everything that came next. I walked to the podium, gift card in hand, and took the microphone. Richard was already turning away, dismissing me one final time. "Thank you, Richard. This $10 gift card is so generous that I've decided to use it to buy the company." The room froze. Richard turned back, confused amusement on his face. "I'm sorry, you should be, but I accept your apology, just like I accept Sterling Industries." Richard laughed. Actually laughed. "That's funny, Janet. Had a little too much to drink at your own party?" "I don't drink. I need my mind clear to count the money you've been stealing." The laughter died. Brad straightened, his face going pale. "What are you talking about? Phoenix Partners, Lighthouse Consulting, Apex Advisory, Sterling Solutions. Should I continue? I have 47 more shell companies if you'd like the complete list." "You're delusional. Someone get her." $30 million over 15 years. I have every transaction documented, every fake invoice, every fraudulent payment, every crime. That's when David Ross entered with 2 lawyers and a federal prosecutor. The timing was perfect. I'd signaled him with a text when Richard started his speech. "Mr. Sterling, I'm here representing a consortium of investors prepared to purchase controlling interest in Sterling Industries. This is a retirement party. You can't just—" "Actually, we can." One of the lawyers stepped forward. "The board of directors held an emergency meeting this afternoon. Based on evidence of significant financial malfeasance, they've voted to invoke the criminal activity clause in your father's corporate bylaws." Richard's face went from red to white. "What evidence?" Margaret stood up. 67 age discrimination settlements, 43 sexual harassment complaints, 18 disability discrimination cases, all hidden from the board, all paid from illegitimate accounts. Elizabeth Sterling rose from her corner. "Hello, Richard. You can't be here. The NDA doesn't apply to criminal proceedings, and I believe the FBI will be very interested in what I know." Richard looked around wildly, searching for allies, but the room had turned. Employees he'd terrorized, people he'd dismissed, workers he'd planned to replace. They all stared at him with years of suppressed rage. "This is illegal. This is corporate espionage. This is justice. And it's been 27 years coming." The FBI agents arrived exactly on schedule. David had called them the moment Richard handed me the gift card. The final insult that proved his character to any jury. "Richard Sterling, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement, wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. This is insane. I'm calling my lawyer. I'm calling the mayor. You're calling no one. Hands behind your back, please." The sight of Richard Sterling in handcuffs was worth every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every year of being undervalued. But the best part was his face when he finally understood. "You planned this. The retirement, the party, all of it. I've been planning this for 10 years, ever since you took over and started destroying everything your father built. The retirement party was just the stage. You wrote the script with your greed and arrogance. You're nothing. A glorified accountant who got lucky. You think you've won. My lawyers will destroy you. I'll sue you into poverty. You'll do nothing. Your assets are frozen. Your accounts are seized. Your lawyers will be too busy keeping you out of federal prison to worry about Janet." As they led Richard away, Brad tried to slip out the back. 2 more agents were waiting. Mr. Kowalski, we have questions about your involvement in the Sterling Industries fraud. Brad looked at me with pure hatred. You destroyed everything. No, I documented everything. You destroyed it all by yourself. After they were gone, the room erupted. People crying, cheering, hugging each other. Madison was sobbing with relief. Linda was calling her husband to share the news. Jerome was actually dancing. But we weren't done yet. David took the podium, waiting for the chaos to settle. When he had everyone's attention, he dropped the next bombshell. Ladies and gentlemen, my investment firm has purchased controlling interest in Sterling Industries, effective immediately. But we're not here to be new overlords. We're here to return this company to the people who built it. Effective Monday, Sterling Industries will begin transitioning to an employee-owned company. Every person who works here will receive shares based on their years of service. The longer you've been here, building value that was stolen by previous management, the more you'll own. The silence was deafening. Then someone, I think it was Jerome, started to understand. We're going to own the company. You've always owned it. Your labor, your dedication, your talent, that's what built Sterling Industries. Richard Sterling just had his name on the door. Now you'll have your names on the stock certificates. Margaret was already doing calculations. Based on current valuations and the employee ownership formula, staff with 20-plus years of service would receive shares worth approximately $400,000. The room exploded again. People were crying openly now, calling spouses, calculating life-changing numbers on their phones. But that's not all. The board has asked me to announce our new CEO, effective immediately. Someone who understands this company's history, values, and potential. Janet Morrison. Will you accept? I stared at him. We hadn't discussed this. This wasn't part of the plan. I'm a finance director. You're the person who saved this company multiple times. You're the one who built the systems we rely on. You're the leader these people trust. The board voted unanimously. I looked around the room, at faces I'd known for decades, people who'd been dismissed and diminished just like me, people who deserved so much more than they'd been given. Yes, I accept. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Federal investigations, media coverage, complete corporate restructuring, but also resurrection. Richard Sterling was convicted on all charges. 20 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 15. The judge, reading my victim impact statement, said it was the most comprehensive documentation of corporate crime she'd ever seen. Brad Kowalski got 12 years and was permanently barred from serving as a corporate officer. But the real story was Sterling Industries' transformation. Employee ownership changed everything. When the janitor owns shares, the building stays cleaner. When customer service reps have equity, client satisfaction soars. When everyone has skin in the game changes entirely. We rehired every employee Richard had wrongfully terminated, with back pay and sincere apologies. We instituted transparent financial reporting. Every employee could see every number. We raised base salaries to industry standards and implemented profit sharing that made us all partners in success. The company that had been hemorrhaging money under Richard's leadership became profitable within 6 months, not through layoffs or outsourcing, but through the revolutionary idea that people who feel valued create value. My first act as CEO was to establish the William Sterling Memorial Fund, providing scholarships for employees' children. My second was to create an ethics hotline that reported directly to the board, ensuring no future executive could silence concerns. My third was to frame that $10 gift card and hang it in the lobby with a plaque. The gift that bought a company. Never forget your worth. It's been 2 years since that December night. I'm 56 now, CEO of a thriving employee-owned company worth 3 times what it was under Richard's leadership. My daughters are proud of me. Sarah runs our cybersecurity division. Emily designed our new corporate art program that showcases employee creativity. Margaret is our Chief Human Resources Officer, dedicated to ensuring no employee ever feels voiceless again. Madison, who organized that pathetic party, is now our Director of Corporate Communications. Having returned after getting her MBA, David Ross and I became close during the transition. Not romantically, that's Hollywood nonsense, but as partners in proving that businesses can be both ethical and profitable. His firm has replicated our model at dozens of other companies, spreading employee ownership across industries. Last month, I received a letter from federal prison. Richard Sterling, writing to say I'd destroyed his life over petty revenge. I wrote back with 2 words: thank you. Because he was right about one thing. It was petty. That $10 gift card was petty. The speech calling me adequate was petty. 27 years of being undervalued was petty. But petty grievances, accumulated over decades, documented with precision, and deployed with strategy, can topple empires. To everyone listening who's been handed their own $10 gift card moment, whether literal or metaphorical, remember this: they can only define your worth if you let them. They can only diminish you if you accept their valuation. Document everything. Build alliances. Wait for your moment. And when it comes, don't hesitate to use their own arrogance against them. Your worth isn't determined by their gift card. It's determined by your refusal to accept it as enough. I'm Janet Morrison, CEO of Sterling Industries, and my story began with a $10 insult. How will yours end?